Welcome, everyone. Today, we're going to be talking about letting go with the Soul Journey Doula, because that is something that is probably going to help you have, as you say, a peaceful transition, Lee, right?
Right.
To kind of let go of, like, I didn't do it all, or, because last time you were on the show, we were talking about doing our bucket lists, right? And
Yeah.
trying to do what we can. Now we're going to get to the point of, well, what if we didn't get to the bucket list? Don't beat yourself up, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't want to let go before you have to let go.
Ah, there it is. But yeah, when do you have to do you sit there and have those kind of conversations with those and getting prepared for the transition about kind of the thoughts that go through the relationships. A lot of times it's going to be relationships, right?
Well, I was reading on Shannon Doherty, who just recently
Mm,
died. She was from 90210, and she was only
yep.
53 years old, and she died of breast cancer. And I was reading, and it talked about some of her regrets, that she regretted that she had never had a child.
Mm,
And then there comes a point, because she was hopeful up until a few weeks before she died, that somehow she could beat this. And so she had to let go of that and make peace with,
mm.
this is where I am. And then I believe that at the end, the people who have the easiest time are the ones who can look back and say, and yet I did this, and yet I
Okay.
achieved this. And I might
Mm.
not have gotten to Europe, but I got to Las Vegas, and they had the Eiffel Tower at, in the plaza. I don't know, you know, not trying to make light of it, but I am trying to make light of it.
Sure.
That at a certain point, you have to recognize what is and what isn't.
Hmm. Exactly. Kind of, and what about relationships? Because maybe like I have dear friends and one passed, their sisters, and one did a naughty nunu, not a big no-no in their relationship, but it wasn't like a big no-no that it was the end of the world, but they it was bad, but it wasn't that bad. You and I would laugh at it. Um, but the other sister got thoroughly, you know, miffed at what happened, and she runs a business, and then the sister helped her out at the business, and the sister dropped an F-bomb instead of a client in front of a customer, and that was unacceptable to the owner, right? Her other sister, elder sister. And they didn't speak for quite a while because one was just, I'm really mad. But then when the other one was passing, I mean, they made up, right? But when it was time for the one with the mouth to pass, because she did get cancer really quickly, they just sat holding hands,
Oh,
laughing and crying and laughing at including that. Like, remember how we did this, and how we got, we were on the rocks there, what a waste of time kind of thing, but laughed about it because of it. Why not? You might as well laugh at it, right? They laughed, they went through memories together, and that was her last moments of life, was just
wow.
laughing and crying together and just holding each other. So they had to get over it because even none of they can't separate those two anyway. But what about that in relationships where you may have a gap between the two people, and one's going to pass and realizes maybe they need to make amends, or
Yeah.
if you can't make amends, do you just kind of go, well, I didn't, but I still care, and kind of reconcile that within yourself, because sometimes you can't.
I think that the people who have the hardest times are people who don't know how to let go. And
Mm,
so they take those resentments. And I think that a lot of us hold this myth that at the end, everything is tied up with a nice bow, and the relationships with everyone are resolved, and everybody stands around your bedside saying, you were the best, blah, blah, blah. But what I've observed is that doesn't happen. There
mm,
are people who die on their own. And I think that's really sad.
yeah.
And there, at a certain point, you have to recognize if you're angry at someone, is that what you want to carry? Is that
Mm,
what you want to hold on to in your last moments, that you have this resentment towards this person?
mm. Yeah, that's
Got to
oh,
be
well,
pretty bad.
how's this? A friend of mine, her mom was very hoity-toity, very fashion conscious, very everything she has to look, you know, prim and proper. And my friend is retired and elder now, but she is the complete opposite. She's a tomboy, she's like me. I really don't care. Like, honestly, can I just put a t-shirt back on now? Um, so she's a birder and a nature person, a farmer, all of that, right? So this is bipolar opposite, right? And her mom was always mean to her because of that. So there was a rift between them. However, she was there when her mom died, and her mom, she didn't let anyone see her until when her mom had passed. She had gone to the funeral specialist and they had put her lipstick on and put her hair the way, because she knew. And my friend is not religious, she's spiritually conscious. But even though they had this rift between them, they never made pure amends because her mother just was not that way. But when she passed, she until she was all dolled up the way she always looks, as best you can when someone's passed on, then people could come and see her, because she
Yeah.
didn't want people to see her dying because she wasn't looking her best. That's pretty hardcore.
Yeah.
And for my friend to go and honor those wishes is pretty amazing too, even
Yeah.
though it goes completely against her character. Of It's not against her character to in honor, but against her character to be all, we're all like, we're like you, let's go get composted. So
Yeah.
we're different,
Yeah.
but
So,
that I
which
think,
is much nicer than blacking a tooth and, putting smudges under her eyes and saying, come look at the old, but,
no, yeah, I know,
obviously there
right?
was love there and she
Yeah.
knew what was important to her mom and carried out that
And
last thing.
she let go of her
Obviously let
stuff.
go. Yeah.
Yeah. And her mom didn't let go, but
Yeah.
she had what she wanted. So maybe that's an interesting thing, huh? So sometimes you stick to who you are. I don't know. When
Yeah.
it's, I mean, that's who she was. That was what was important to her. Not necessarily what I would agree with, but that's not my my thing. That's not
Yeah.
got anything to do with me,
And
you know?
I just thought, Lisa, if you and I had people who resented us because we sometimes said things we shouldn't, holy crap,
Oh, we're in trouble.
we're in trouble.
So I think people, yeah, I get the odd email or two and comments on things, you know. I
Do
get in
you?
trouble. Yeah, yeah, uh-huh. Sure, sure.
I can't
Yeah.
imagine because most of the time we spend together, and for anyone who's listening, like Lisa and I met each other doing this. So it
Yeah,
wasn't
yeah.
I knew her and we were friends and she said, come on the podcast. No, it was a professional relationship and this is what I do and this is what I do. And we got
Mm,
together. But not a surprise. When I met you and Nancy, it was like
yeah.
we'd been friends
And
for
we
like,
went for margaritas.
yeah,
I just
as
actually
you
wrote
should.
about you, by the way, during an article. Yeah, I forgot to tell you about that. This is a good podcast to talk about. Yeah, I just wrote about you, about how we met and how you emailed. You had a book and you're coming on the podcast and you answered the happy hour question. I said, now this is a smart woman. She wants to come on the podcast. She answered the happy hour question that we have on the shows. So I talked about you and I was like, and then we met her and we did have margaritas and tacos and now we do podcasts like all the time. It's fun.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
that's because it's attention to detail and getting to know people. When
yeah,
we first connected online and we connected through Chantal Joven, your friend. And that to me, that's the way it's it's about caring and it's attention to detail, and I
yeah,
think that's what makes you a good doula and a good person on trust. You build trust. You're the trust architect still, and if
yeah.
someone's
I
going to
still talk
have
about
you
that.
be their death doula, trust is a big one.
And I've experienced my own loss with a relationship with my daughter, and
Mm,
not going to say that because it's very I respect her privacy,
yeah.
but on this very deep level, you have to let go of
Mm-hmm.
whatever you did or didn't do.
Mm,
And then there's that realization. So my friend always does this. What if you were hit by a bus? Which I kind of hate because I hate bringing that image into it. But
Have a
yeah,
margarita first.
yeah, you have to let go of
Mm-hmm.
anything now. It's not like
Mm-hmm.
you can say, well, I'm going to hold on to the resentment.
That
And
doesn't
then
work
if I
well.
find out I'm dying, then I'll work it all out. Well, it doesn't work like that. You start
Mm-hmm.
now. If you're still on this planet and you've got 2 feet on, well, you don't have 2 feet on the ground. If you're still on this planet, start letting go. Start recognizing
Mm-hmm.
what are the things that you're holding on to that don't serve you? What are the things that you're holding on to that build resentment? And you know what? If no one else
Yeah.
is around and you're still holding on to that, the only person that's being hurt in the moment is you. And they've
Yeah.
shown that a lot of those resentments and all of those pains and everything have a effect on your health. So I used to see someone would say, oh, there's such a pain in the neck. And then pretty soon they'd be going to a chiropractor or people who can't stomach someone
Mm-hmm.
end up having intestinal problems. There
Yeah.
is a body, mind, spirit connection.
Yes.
Letting go means that
Mm-hmm.
maybe you'll live a little bit longer and you won't have to let go to the hold you have on earth for a while.
It's interesting. We just did an interview with Shelley Wizen, who's a transformational life coach, and she just did a whole thing on forgiveness and talking about the power of forgiveness.
Or
And
forgiveness.
actually the people we have to forgive is ourselves first.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that's that's who. And the resentment just, I mean, everyone makes a mistake. And that's one thing we have to learn is that we all screw up, and you have to allow yourself to get back up and go, okay, I screwed up. What am I going to do to rectify it? Or is it too late to rectify? Then move on, because otherwise you have no growth and you have no happiness. And I
Yeah.
think we're supposed to be here to be happy, don't you think?
Yeah, I do. And I think that the whole thing is being able to look at yourself in the mirror. And there's I just did a course that was really good. And I don't know if you know who Gabor Mate is.
Mm-mm.
He is,
Oh, there, him and his son.
yeah, Daniel and Gabor Mate. And so they did a whole thing on
Mm,
forgiving your adult, like, sorry, healing the adult relationship with the adult child and the parent. And so much of it was around letting go and you have these false perceptions.
mm,
So I may think of you a certain way, and who knows whether or not it's completely true. It's my perception. And so you get to a point where you let go of that too. And I think
mm,
in order to be able to die peaceful, and I don't know what happens afterwards, but to have that beautiful energy in the room, you have to be grateful, forgive, and let go.
mm. Yeah, because perception is reality,
It's
you
your
know?
reality. Doesn't always mean it's someone else's reality.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
because we all like we'll watch something and have two different opinions, and it'll be the same thing, right? It's the same thing as relaying a phone conversation. Everybody starts getting it wrong, right? The phone tree thing gets wonky
Yeah.
because everyone has to add a little spice here, add a little that to that. And
Yeah.
suddenly you have this wild tale going on. I mean, that's in family drama. So that's the thing I think when people are passing, oh my gosh, the family dramas, the family riffs. I mean, and just because someone's passed over doesn't mean that they're suddenly nice either. If they've been really horrible to people too, sometimes you have to let go of that and not keep going. I mean, if they've gone now. Stop it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Let them go. Quit resenting them. You can't do anything about it.
Yeah, you got to let them go, and they've got to let you go. Unhand
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah.
But I really find that with relationships, but also I know people who don't let go to pass. I've heard of those stories where people are just waiting for someone to, show
Yeah.
up. You know those kind of, and then as soon as someone has arrived or left, they pass. Some people don't want to pass away in front of people, you
Yeah.
know.
And how many times have you heard the child or the adult parent, it doesn't matter who, giving permission for the person to die and telling them that it's okay to let go, that everything is going to be okay. Because a lot of times, and I've seen that where um, I, I've heard a friend of mine who's a doula, where the adult child said to the doula, don't tell mom she's dying. That will upset her too much. Just let her believe that, she's maybe just got a cold or whatever. And then the mother has said to the doula, I'm dying, but don't tell my daughter because she has such a hard time accepting it. They both knew, but they felt that the other person didn't, and they thought they were protecting each other.
Mm.
So it's that again, that perception, well, I can handle it, but my poor mom
It's
can't.
protective. It's protective, but at the same time, it would have been better to be honest and then face it, you
And
know?
be able to have those conversations. Like it's so precious. Like if you've only got, we don't know how long we've got. And
Mm.
isn't it better to be able to go places and not have whatever is hanging over your head?
Mm. I interviewed a lady yesterday. Both her sons are challenged. One has a very rare form of cerebral palsy, and basically they said, "Oh, you got 1 to 2 years when he was a baby," and he's far surpassed that. So you can't. And they had to. She said the biggest lesson, and her other son is autistic, and the biggest lesson she had to learn is to live in the present moment no matter what. You have to. You can't you can't
Yeah.
stress about the future. You have to live in the present moment. You can think about it maybe the next day, but not all the way to everything and hope and expect and all of that. You have to be incredibly real, which is can be very dark. But and as a family unit, I mean, you have to imagine how they have to work together on things.
Yeah.
That's
Wow.
traumatic, it's and support groups help when people do have an illness, maybe it is cancer or heart disease or something like that. Do support groups help when they know that this is terminal, do you think?
Oh boy, that's a big question. And I would say it depends. I had a friend who was violently raped. This is
Oh,
years and years ago. And she went to a support group and she came back from it and said, when she got in there and she was listening to people, there was one woman who was going on about what had happened. And she thought, oh, wow, this just happened recently. And she said, wow, like, when did this happen? And it was something like 7 years before. And my friend Sally came home and said, I'm not going there. What
it's
it's doing is they're just holding on to their pain. They're
and
not going
reliving.
there and reliving it. They're not going there to deal with it. They're going there to relive it so everyone can say, oh my God, that's so awful.
Mm.
So for her, it definitely wasn't helpful. And
Yeah,
I
because that
was
can be
with a woman.
PTSD. That's a
Yeah,
PTSD, that's an emotional, yeah, trigger that, you don't want to live through that over and over and
yeah,
over again. And that's everyone's different. Sometimes some people just have to, it's like, when someone is broken up from a relationship and they don't stop, and I'm like, oh, get over it already. Come on, stop whining, go out and have a party or something. But, they keep on and on and on. And it's same thing as when someone's passed. There's a grief. You have to have your grief period at some point, but at some point you do have to stand up. When someone is broken up, you do have to not relive it over and over, the arguments or whatever. If there's a breakup that's nasty, I mean, I get it having your conversations with your friends, but like what you're saying, if it's something brutal, to go over it and over it and over it to the point where it's consuming your life, that's not cool. It's a, I know AA works, right? AA really helps people, but at the same time, there's a side of me that thinks maybe it'll make you want to have a drink again because you're all talking about like the shenanigans you got into. You know what I mean? And the bad stuff too. But I think it is. I think you're right. It really is about each person and what they went through. You know.
and grief is kind of it's different from a lot of the things like
And I'm not telling people to get over. Just get over it when someone passes. I'm not. That's not what I was saying. You know.
what I found, and I was talking to a friend of mine whose husband died 5 years ago, and they had a great marriage, and she still grieves, and she will grieve
Mm.
forever. The difference is And I think what we're talking about is that she now is able to function effectively.
Mm.
She will never get over missing him. She will never get over feeling the grief when she thinks that he's not by her side, but she is healthy and functioning, and she doesn't need to talk about it incessantly. And
Yeah.
I think that there's kind of this whole level of getting over it. When I say get over, letting
Now you're
go.
sounding like me. Just get over it. No, I'm kidding, people. I am
Yeah.
kidding. You can't just get over things like that. No.
Yeah, when I say letting go, it means accepting what is.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can tell you that I've let go of this false expectation of having my daughter run up to me and say, "Oh, I'm so sorry. You were the best mom ever." I let go of that, but it
Mm.
doesn't mean that I've let go of some of the grief of the separation. So there's two different types of letting go. And
Mm.
so at the end of life, you're letting go of the pain, but not the memory. You're letting
Yeah.
go of the resentment, but not the learning and the knowledge that you have. Like I
Mm-hmm.
think that you can let go of some of the pain because holding on to it just brings more pain.
Yeah, it doesn't help anything. And
Yeah,
the reality is everything negative and everything positive does have a lesson attached to it. So
yeah,
you're going to learn it at
absolutely.
some point, and maybe it is when you are at the end. When we were in South Africa, and Nancy was doing her tour for the Cancer Association with her art, and we did a lot of public speaking, a lot of press things, and I had to learn as a 13-year-old how to do press releases and things. But we were on the road full time, and we worked with a lot of volunteers in the Cancer Association, and then went to hospitals. I remember going to children's hospitals, because I was a kid, and learning about that, and it taught me a lot about how to handle it, how to have humor, and to also treat these patients like human beings without going, oh my gosh, don't, to get past that awkwardness of handling that. Because a lot of times when you have a friend who's got cancer, or a relative or a colleague, and maybe they're starting to lose their hair, now we have a lot of things that can help with that. But at that time it was really hard to meet a bunch of kids with no hair, and I had to learn how to do it without making them feel uncomfortable, but also still acknowledging that they're, and humor to me is everything, right? So, and to just treat someone like a human
Yeah,
being,
yeah,
get it's, they are not cancer, they are, Sally or Fred, that's who they are, not cancer. So I had to learn that kind of thing. And so there's a letting go in getting, these are terminal kids. There's a letting go for that moment while you're there with them. Because why are you visiting? To go, oh, poor you. They don't want that. They want care and compassion. But what they really want to do is feel like a kid again, away from the needles and the IVs and all of that stuff, and just have someone visit and maybe read or play a game. And so they can let go of the cancer in between the cancer times. Do you know what I mean? Even though cancer is
yeah,
always there.
absolutely.
So there's a letting go of that. So it was really a lot of education with this. But anyway, we went to a town in Ladysmith, South Africa. Ladysmith, Mambazo, the band, right? So we actually lived out there later. And there was this older man, Archie. I'm not going to say his last name because God forbid, somebody from there will know who we're talking about. And he was quite a mean SOB. Like, he was a hardcore women in the kitchen. He was very it was a farm life, and just, he was not the nicest person. However, he got throat cancer and he couldn't yell at people anymore. Go back to what you were saying, right?
Wow.
Earlier.
Yeah.
And so we would all have dinner, and he had a hole in his throat, and food would fly out literally because he wouldn't. And it was well, you learned to not sit across from him. But he said cancer taught him to be nicer. He realized how much he yelled at people, how horrible he was treating people. And he says, "You're lucky you met me now." And we're going, "I don't know, because you're still mean." But he was learning, and he realized
Yeah.
it was a big lesson for him in humanity and humility, and he was changing. And we were on the road, and he's like, here, come stay for a while so you guys can relax. Nancy needed to catch up on her paintings, and we stayed on the farm for a while and played with the donkey, Mr. Magoo, and helped
Cool.
put together barn dances to raise money for the Cancer Association. So it was a good thing, but to watch someone grow from that. And he was a tough dude. He lasted a long time, I think into his late 80s, early 90s.
With this
Serious. Yeah.
hole
So
in
he
this.
had the well, yeah, in South Africa has a really good medical. I mean, they've
Okay.
always been
So
really
so
good.
yeah, I can see that they actually
He
close
had
it
a
up.
trachea thing. Yeah,
Trachea.
normally it was, I mean, this is in the 80s, right? So
Okay.
late 80s, I think. And so, we didn't have what we have now.
Right.
I think when he met with people, he'd put like a little crochet thing over it. And then he had a little thing that he would talk into. And
Oh, that
and
makes
then
you
I played
yeah.
with a musician that had the same thing, and he was also he was an incredible singer back in his day. He was with Canned Heat and the Flying Burrito Brothers. And so I was singing, and he was a heck of a guitarist, but mostly a really good singer. And he went through that, and he also wasn't the nicest of people and kind of had to learn. But then he ended up on drugs, and then he's dead now. But had to go through that. But anyway, just generations of change in the medical industry over the
Yeah,
years. So it was
and
good.
I think that everything that happens to you, I think that I'm a kinder person because of the things that I've gone through. I am
Yeah.
more aware of things. So you have a chance. You can either grow
Hmm.
and learn, or you can go the other way and just continue being, like blame everybody else. If someone has a criticism towards you, say that it's all
Hmm.
their fault, and then never progress and never move on. And I think that letting go, if someone has told you something and you don't want to hear it, then you have to listen even harder,
Mm.
because there's a bit
There's
of a
always a
level.
grain of truth. Yeah, there's always a grain of truth,
Yeah,
right? There's
yeah.
always a grain of truth. I think right now this is a good conversation as our country is so divided.
Oh my
I
God.
don't want to talk politics at all, but because I don't want to create another rift even further that we have in this country and families. This is this is a time to let go of political. I mean, we're talking about a bunch of people we don't personally know, unless you really know the presidents and the other president and whatever. At this point, I think letting go is a good thing just in general. So I just want to put that comment there that maybe letting go over who's going to win the argument over politics is ridiculous. And families shouldn't divide over that. They should try and find the unity again. And if you have family right now that are terminal or not doing well, perhaps don't put their blood pressure up.
Yes, and don't find out. Honestly, I you know that I take improv, so I go to improv classes all the time. And so
Mm,
one of the rules of improv is that there's no isms, there's no
mm,
prejudice, there's no sexism, there's no ageism, and there's no politicalism. So it just means that, all of those things are left out. I don't, if I'm doing a scene with someone, I'm I'm approaching them as if this is the first time, there is no background, and we're just having fun on stage. And it would be such a great thing to take into life,
mm-hmm.
that you let go of all of these preconceived notions of someone and these perceptions, because most often, whatever your perception is, there's always a little bit more that you should know.
I agree. Mm-hmm.
So, like I can't, like right now, there's someone, and I'm not going to get into the politics, but they've got a great big sign. And I'm going to, but they've got a great big sign facing outwards with twinkly lights all around it, promoting a particular political candidate. And it just, I find it so divisive. So,
Yeah.
let go of that. Let people make their own decision. Quit trying to influence. Just let it go.
That's a good point. Really, don't You know what? Can we throw out the word influencer too? I'm tired of it.
Yeah.
And while we're at that, just let it go and really let go of those things because we all have things that make us tick, right?
Yeah.
And people who know you know how to poke you right where you know that you get poked because you allow it, right? It's our thing.
Absolutely.
And
You
so
know,
if someone's poking you and you react, it's your fault, period. And so it's important to let go of whatever that hot button is, whatever the trigger word is, or whatever it is. You have to let it go. You have to, otherwise they're controlling you.
yeah. And if you want to really see if you've evolved, spend a week with your family and see if you can just keep all of that resolve that, I'm such a good person and kind person and always stay calm. Spend a week with your family and truly test it and see if when they say things to you, if you can just go, yeah, that's interesting. Because I can
This
remember
is,
having
yeah.
being with my family and they'd say, do you remember when? And they would pull up something that they knew intentionally irritated me. And most of the time I could just feel myself like,
Mm-hmm.
well, I'm gonna,
And they're watching you to see if you're going to do it, and then they'll put it on double thick,
yeah,
right? See, but this is why when you get together with friends and family, here's the thing. Okay, or if it's really the family thing. We all know this, right? Or someone comes to the party and you don't like it. I learned this from an attorney on our shows. He said when you go to the in-laws house and you can't stand them, right? You know that there's someone there just drives you nuts. Be the person to go to the store. Oh, we're out of ice. Let me go to the store. Oh, I know I've been there. I'll go again. That's fine. So he always says have an escape plan and be the hero of the party. Oh no, you don't get up. I'll go to the store. Oh, I know I just went twice, but I can go a third time. Oh, you
don't
need
mind.
you Oh, I don't mind. I don't mind going chopping firewood outside for the fire. Don't worry about it. And then there's things called snacks and drinks. Stuff your face. Just
So
stuff
you
your
can't
face.
say anything. If they've got a
Exactly.
dog, offer to take it for a walk.
Exactly. And if there's like here, if they have marshmallows, eat the marshmallows because you can keep your mouth shut. Basically,
Yeah,
just do it and make it a game. Just make it a game with yourself to get through it because then it does lighten it up. But yeah, you got to let things go. And everything we're saying just sounds so easy, but it's really not. So there it is.
yeah,
But
yeah,
if you try and make it a game, it is, you know,
yeah. How
you,
many times can I
yeah,
how many ways
drink,
can I get out of this? Yeah.
yeah, drink every time they start to push a button.
Oh my gosh.
You better have an Uber. Yeah. So no, it is. I think letting go is a good thing just in life, and that's what I love about these shows. About the Soul Journey Doula is about living life now, not waiting till the end to be perfect. And so I didn't know it was going to go so like backwards that way, right?
Our talks always do though, Lisa. It's one of the things that I enjoy. We said, like we talk about where we think the talk is going to go, and then we often take an off ramp. People will notice you and I get into these really interesting conversations and take an off ramp, but we always get back on
Yeah, yeah.
the
But
doula
letting go is
highway
letting
about
go.
letting go.
Yeah, but I like this because it does make you think about your life today, not waiting.
Yeah.
The waiting game sucks. That's yeah. So I think it's good. That's good stuff. But always fun, Lee. And go eat
Lisa,
some marshmallows.
yeah, I'm going to go see my family in August. So like maybe I should just pack a whole big bag of marshmallows on the plane. Start
Yeah.
stuffing them in my mouth even before I get
And if
there.
there's kids there, get involved with them and make faces with the marshmallows.
Oh, that'll be good. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, stuff them.
For my cheeks.
Yeah, exactly. Be a chipmunk. Why not?
Okay. Sounds
Make
good.
like chipmunk and stuff your face.
Okay.
Thanks, Lee. Everyone, keep up
Yeah.
with Lee at souljourneydoula.com. And thank you all for listening to our conversations about the end of life.